let me just say that if some of these white, old, liberal people come up and try and videotape myself, if I'm with someone, my kids, my husband, I will not be
You won't be
kind.
cool about it.
No, I will not. They're being far too nice. That's the
I
one
will
thing
be
I've
arrested.
seen. I will do something I regret because this is getting out of hand.
Welcome to Rivera Reeves, the podcast where we break through the bias, report the news, and occasionally trip over our soapboxes while ranting about the headlines.
Every week, we tackle the biggest stories with sharp analysis, unfiltered honesty, and just enough sarcasm to keep it fun.
So pull up a chair, grab your coffee, and join us as we wade through the spin because the media is trash and we have zero patience for their nonsense. Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of Rivera Reeves. I'm Mercedes. I'm here with my friend Rachel. Say hello, Rachel.
Hello, Rachel.
Okay, girl.
Yes.
There's a million things going on right now.
A lot.
Okay. By the way, literally, as I am getting on this phone call, Rachel's like, oh, by the way, the president of the United States will be at the White House press conference today.
During our recording. So we won't get to listen to that. Yep.
Which,
as
I mean,
always.
But there's nothing else, like nothing important going on. Today's episode, it's going to be about Minneapolis, okay? Minneapolis is the subject. However, it is worth mentioning a few things. Today is the 1-year anniversary of Trump's inauguration. Trump has officially been a president for 1 full year.
Yes. And
it's
he's
only
celebrating.
Been a year.
Yeah, it feels like it's been a decade. And he's celebrating by, I don't know, sharing private text messages from foreign leaders and basically saber rattling while all the other foreign leaders are kind of telling him off a little bit. And we're just over here like, what's going on? What's happening?
I think they're posturing, honestly.
Well, obviously, but
yes.
they're all using some pretty, fiery
but
language.
Let me just point out that they're all using this fiery language after it's kind of become like the cool, acceptable thing to do. Okay.
Right. I just don't think that there's a way to look at it and not think that there will be some sort of fallouts somewhere in there or ramifications or like broken relationships. I know that Trump always will take someone back if they just kind of like bend the knee and apologize. But I mean, you've got Canada falling into the arms of China. You've got Macron and his glasses calling Trump a bully. You've got one of the premiers in Denmark, I think it was
told him to F off.
F off. I mean, and it's not just those three. You got, Ursula.
But then you also have like the head of NATO, Ruff, who's dear Donald.
Yeah,
I'm going to help you out. We're going to get you Greenland, and then you have the head of the PM of Slovakia also going like, bro, let's go, let's get you Greenland. So
then you have people in the streets of Greenland protesting, like we're not for sale and so angry. But then you have other people they're interviewing in Greenland who are like,
and they're like,
let's do it. We don't like Denmark. Denmark isn't as great to us as you all think that they are. So I am literally a confused meme right now.
Did you know that with the we're getting sidelined, but we're going to get back on track. Did you know that with the purchase of not Australia, that's next.
Really? Okay.
Of Alaska, that Alaskans, I don't know if all of them, but or if it's descendants or what, but they get like a annual or monthly stipend or something like that.
Mm-hmm. I did know that.
So they're saying Greenland could maybe have the same arrangement.
Yeah. And the people there are like, okay.
Okay. I mean, if you were going to have to choose, if you were forced to choose between Denmark and the United States.
Right. Well, and you could
obviously
travel freely. You could. My question, as stupid as this sounds, is what is the process going to look like for naturalizing all the citizens that are there? Like, those are the small, weird things that I'm like, that would be interesting to all of us. Well, what if some of them don't want to be U.S. citizens? Would they be forced
go to Denmark?
Move? Or would they be able to stay in Greenland with some kind of understanding that they were born there or they live there, but they're not actually U.S. citizens? I don't know. These questions.
I mean, I think it could honestly be one of the things that you just leave up to them. And it's like, if you want to go to, I saw a video of a woman that says she is fleeing to Denmark.
Yes, I also saw that.
They're worried about the U.S. invasion. And I'm like,
Donald.
look, the Don is not going to invade Greenland. Okay.
Look.
He's not.
You make him
But
mad enough, he might. You never know.
I don't know. But let's move on because
Okay.
so Trump is leaving today to head over to Davos. A lot
After
of
he
the
speaks at the
leadership.
White House, apparently.
Yes. So for sure, we're going to be getting headlines over the next few days
Mhm.
that are very foreign policy focused. Also, I wanted to mention real quick, SCOTUS was due to release some opinions today,
Mhm.
but none of the good ones. So we are still waiting on the tariffs, on the Voter Rights Act, and whether or not we're going to hear anything on birthright citizenship.
Yep. We got 3
So
kind of boring ones.
yeah, one of them was like process and stuff. I'm not gonna
No.
there's other things we need to talk about. But before we get into today's episode, which is going to be all about Minneapolis, if this is your first time here, welcome. You have found your new favorite podcast. Make sure you hit that follow button wherever you're listening, on your favorite podcast app, on YouTube, or on Substack, and that is where it's at. You know, I had like this cool little like follow through and I totally messed it up. So why should you become a subscriber on our Substack? First of all, if we have any technical glitches, that's how we communicate with you. Second of all, if you consider becoming a paying subscriber, you get this episode and the video a day before anybody gets it on YouTube because there's a 24-hour delay there, and you get your video and your audio immediately. Of course, audio is always available for free on your podcast app with advertisement. So if you want it without advertisement interruption, please consider becoming a paying supporter. And reminder that our unfiltered episodes will now be live on our Substack at 3:30 a.m. on the last Saturday of every month. So this month, it'll be the 31st of September.
At 11:30 a.m. Bring your
Eastern.
breakfast, bring your
Eastern.
brunch. Yes.
And we'll take questions and we'll just we'll do a group therapy session is what we'll do because
that's how we're going to make it through.
It is a full year of the Donald being president for the second time.
Yep.
All right. So Minneapolis, let's discuss. Okay. Yesterday,
nothing big's happening
nothing's
there at all.
happening at all except
everything.
Okay. So on Sunday, a church in St. Paul, Minnesota, is City's Church, which I believe is a Southern Baptist church, if I'm not mistaken.
SBC. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anti-ICE protesters stormed into the worship service, interrupted it. And actually, I've heard some conflicting information because I've heard they've stormed in. And I also heard that they came in, sat amongst the congregation, and then stood up and started with the whole protest.
Or it could be both.
It could be a little bit of both. That I'm kind of waiting to see. But this was organized by, drum roll please. Actually, do I have a drum roll? I think I might have a drum roll. Do I? Oh! I just remembered.
Nice. That was nice.
I just remembered I had that. Okay. That was already included in the software. I didn't go looking for it. Okay, so the organizer was a Black Lives Matter civil rights attorney, former president of the Minneapolis NAACP, and founder of the Racial Justice Network. Her name is Nikema Levy Armstrong. Okay, so Armstrong coordinated this entire thing. Okay, this was actually, you know what? Let her explain what the plan was for you guys with one of our best friends, Don Lemon.
Yes. And then I have a fun story about Don Lemon that I think I've told before, but it's worth repeating. Go ahead.
Okay, I do want to hear that. Let's check this out.
How are you? Good to see you. They're getting the operation together again. This is an operation that is secret, that they invited folks out. Can't tell you what is going to happen, but you're going to watch it live unfold here on the Don Lemon Show. There are for this reason, it may look like MAGA coded, but there's a reason they have so many white people here. I'm just going to be honest. It's because of the operation that they're doing today.
Oh, because only white people voted for Trump.
Allies, as they said, white allies here. So that is what I could say. I turned our camera off of them because they're giving some critical information here. But there we go. Everybody's ready to go. Let's go. Okay.
All right, so for those
Thank
of
you
you who
guys
are
for being- thanks
listening,
you
he's
for
now
allowing me to be
walking
here.
Some of the stuff.
Thank you guys.
over to interview
Good to see you.
Armstrong.
We're on. We're not saying what it
Kiss
is,
on
what's
the
going
cheek.
on, but thank you. Tell us why you're doing this.
So
This is Nakima Levy Armstrong. She's on the show
Nakima
on
Levy
Friday.
Armstrong, civil rights attorney, longtime activist here in the community. And, we protest and do activism in all kinds of ways. This is Operation Pull Up, more of a clandestine operation. We show up somewhere that is a key location. They don't expect us to come there. And then we disrupt business as usual. So that's what we're about to go do right now. We've had a lot of success with the
So, yeah, that's what they're going to go do right now.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So they roll up. I like how she described it as a clandestine operation to important places,
Mhm.
right?
To disrupt business as
disrupt-
usual.
Correct. Business as usual. Okay. So what does that disruption look like? They walk in and all right, so let's jump over and see what this disruption looked like when they
Okay.
decided to roll up on a church.
Renee Good! Renee Good! Renee Good! Jewelry, you have your nice clothes, but what do you do? What do you do to stand for your Somali and Latino communities? I'm not going to comment. You have no comment, exactly.
Look at that family. They look like a little
Renee
boy.
I
Good!
know.
Renee Good!
And there's Armstrong leading the march. This guy that's taking the video, he apparently is an agitator that goes to different locations to harass people.
This attack on humanity. Where are you? You're sinners. You're pretending to be Christians. But we know you live an easy life, don't you? A very easy life while people are starving. Shame. Out now. Out now.
And then he
Why are
follows
you not
people
going down to Wicklow
after
and
they're
joining us
trying
in
to
protest
leave.
against this inhumanity? You claim to be a Christian. Act like one.
So there we go. All right.
Wow.
Thoughts, opinions, concerns?
I mean, yeah, all of the above. But I mean, my first reaction is, of course, putting myself in that position and what I would feel, firstly, for my kids, if that happens. Because while I myself, when I watched that footage, knew that if I was in that room, I would not necessarily be afraid. As my first emotion, we all know that all it takes is one like unhinged, deranged person to do something crazy and come in with a group like this and decide to do all manner of things. So my first thought was, how would I handle this if it was my church? And also, just making sure that people are having resources so they can get their churches ready for the inevitable when something like this happens in their communities. But then my second thought when watching the footage over and over again for like reporting purposes was, and watching those people stand around and just shout things and then march through the church till everybody like left and they emptied out of church. I truly felt like sorry for them. I felt sorry for how
For
pathetic.
who? For the
For-
agitators?
Yeah, because
Okay.
it's so pathetic what they are thinking that they're accomplishing. It is of no meaning. It's of no value. It does absolutely nothing. And I had some people who routinely come to like my my Instagram page and they're like, this is, protesting like this has always historically made a difference, when people get loud, and this is where change comes from. And it's not. This is
No.
not. You're never, ever, ever, I saw someone post, ever on the right side of history when you storm into a church or disrupt a worship service to prove some kind of point. And I feel sorry for people who are so misguided that they think ridiculously, ridiculous displays like this are going to do anything to progress good in our world. It's
Well,
not
and
going
the
to.
amount of overconfidence that these individuals have to believe
Yeah.
that they have a right to do this.
Yeah.
Like I have this clip here. Don Lemon decides, because he was there, he was present, he knew
Mhm.
beforehand, even though he claims that he didn't later after the
Right.
fact.
He's lying. He
Yes,
lies.
he is a liar that lies.
Yeah. Seriously.
But he went and, in the midst of all of this chaos, confronts the pastor and decides to engage with him on a First Amendment debate.
Yeah.
What do you think of this?
I mean, this is unacceptable. It's shameful. It's shameful to interrupt a public gathering of Christians in worship. So,
But there were folks who will say,
that's what, I have to take care of my flock. and
okay,
my
but listen,
family.
we live in there's a constitution in the First Amendment to freedom of speech and freedom to assemble and protest.
We're here to worship. We're here to worship Jesus, because that's the hope of these cities. That's the hope of the world, is Jesus Christ.
I want to be very respectful. Please don't push me, though.
We're here.
Don't push
we're here
me.
to worship Jesus.
Yes.
That's why we're here.
Yeah.
Okay. That's why we're here.
Okay.
That's what we're about.
Don't you think Jesus would be understanding and
We're about
love these folks?
We're about spreading the love of Jesus.
But did you try to talk to them as a
No
Christian?
one is willing to talk.
Okay.
I have to take care of my church and my family, so I asked that you actually would also leave this building.
You don't want us to
Unless you're here
chronicle
to
what
worship.
happened?
Unless you're here to worship.
I'm always worship. I'm a Christian.
We're here to worship.
Yeah.
We're here to worship. Okay.
Thank you
Yeah,
very much. I
yeah,
appreciate
yeah.
it.
I think, in addition to what I said earlier, I think it offends me so much because, Don Lemon cosplays like he's a Christian. We don't even need to talk about that because that's
Yeah,
just
That's like a waste of our
breath.
time.
But how religion and sacred spaces and the idea of worshiping Christ has been so devalued in our culture that people, even with like deeply held beliefs in years past, would never think of storming into or standing up in church and like desecrating a space like that. That has never been acceptable and has not widely been used as a means to, project your ideas and have lively discussion. But we've devalued the idea of religion and Christianity and the concept of Christ dwelling with us when we're in worship, that these people would think that this was okay. Like it would turn my stomach if I saw people walk into our church yelling like this during a church service. And the fact that it doesn't make more people really reflect on what they're supporting and upset says a lot about our society. I mean, I'm hearing a lot of people defend them and going, I'm a Christian, but they have First Amendment rights. First of all, no, they don't.
No,
Not to do that.
Not
But
this.
second of all, this is what you want to defend? How far gone are we from like the sanctity of having a communal space where we worship Christ in a safe space with our fellow believers, that people are defending it
Yeah.
and saying,
Well-
well, it needs to happen. And it's like, oh my gosh, we're far gone.
Well, and it's not just like other Christians that are defending it, which is problematic enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then in addition, the acceptance and the permission is being defended by the legacy media outlets. Of
Oh,
course, right
yeah.
now, their focus was not about the act itself, but
Right.
the reaction to the act itself, which we're
Right.
about to get into in a moment, which is specifically that the DOJ has announced that they're going to be investigating this as a violation of the FACE Act
Great.
and possibly even the Ku
The
Klux
cake,
Klan.
yeah, do it.
So
Do it.
there's
Do
that
it.
situation. And one of the reasons that you have, especially the most progressive, but even like the talking heads on CNN. I mean, not Fox Jennings.
Scott Jennings.
Scott Jennings was just like getting into it last night. That man, okay? Because he had
He
that
endures
little-
a lot. He endures a lot.
Yeah, it was crazy. But so the reason that these people claim that they were justified in doing this is
They're not.
because one of the pastors of that church, they claim, is an ICE officer, or that he's an ICE official by the name of David Easterwood, and that he is acting director of the ICE St. Paul field office. Now, the DHS has been asked about whether or not this is accurate. They have declined to respond. The news outlets are reporting that the names match. like documentation, legal documentation,
Mhm.
and that this individual, which the picture is on the website, was
Mhm.
also seen attending, I think, a press conference with Kristi Noem earlier this year.
Mm.
So, they're making the conclusion that, well,
It
if
was
you're going to
it was a
have,
witch hunt. It was a witch hunt.
yes,
Yeah, and
correct.
was he there or not? Was he in
No, he was
attendance?
not. And
Can
he
you
was not.
imagine if he had been though? Like what could have popped off? Like especially with when you got aggressive people like that one activist who I couldn't even share his stuff on Instagram. It's like
He's
he
dropping
curses the
F-bombs.
yeah, everywhere. And it's so disgusting. He's yelling these things inside a church. That's how entitled these people feel. Like they can just waltz into wherever they want and do whatever they want and say whatever they want with no ramifications. And I was aghast when I was watching it. And it was on a Sunday, so I had just gotten home from
Well,
church.
obviously, it had to
Yeah,
be on a Sunday because
obviously.
when you're going to have people there in
Right.
church, how are you going to disrupt a service?
Yeah, it's just
I mean, it's wild to me. So
Yep.
at this point, and then actually, I want to read this quote because I think this one is rich before I move on. But Armstrong was asked by CNN, mind you, CNN. So the way this, because I just did this on my Substack, I broke this down. The AP wrote a report after this started to gain traction and after the DOJ announced their investigation. And so they framed it as the DOJ is going to attack these protesters because of the protest at the church. And they asked for comment from Armstrong's, the AP did, but nothing from
the
the
pastor
parishioners,
or
nothing.
parishioners.
No.
Who, by
And
the
she-
way, looked petrified. The little children that were sitting in there, just ugh.
Well,
makes
and then
me-
you have people like walking behind
shouting
the
at
parishioners
them.
as they're trying to leave. They're like,
Yeah.
okay, we're going to get out of here. And they
Yeah.
continue to walk behind them and harass them.
And I feel the most bad for those fathers that are in
Yeah.
there because every single one of them. If this happened at our church, every one of these dads, first of all, okay, there'd be some people carrying at our church. So okay, like
The
it's not
amount of
gonna-
comments that I
Right.
got on my
Oh, yeah.
post that's like, come to the south.
yeah, roll
and
up
do
into our
that.
church, okay? But like I know there's a lot of well-meaning good fathers in there that if they knew that cameras weren't rolling and someone got up into their wife's face or their children's face or started yelling at them, but they
would've
had to
stopped
show
them.
restraint. They had to show restraint and get their kids out of there because who knows what these lunatics are going to do next. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, Armstrong's justification, she said, and this is a quote, when you think about the federal government unleashing barbaric ICE agents upon our community and all the harm that they have caused, to have someone serving as a pastor who oversees these ICE agents is almost unfathomable to me. If the people were more concerned about someone coming to a church on a Sunday and disrupting business as usual than they are about the atrocities that we are experiencing in our community, then we need to check their theology and they need to check their hearts. So,
Well, you need to check the Constitution and not do what you did. And I hope you're arrested and I hope you're charged. So
Yeah.
that's what you need to check.
well, it was announced, as I've already teased multiple times, Harmy Dillon, which is the assistant assistant attorney general of the Civil Rights Office, has announced that there's an investigation going. I believe they've already sent people to Minnesota to investigate on the ground. And the two major points that they are exploring is the FACE Act. And if you guys have been listening for a hot minute, you will maybe be familiar with the FACE Act, but the FACE Act, actually, which was passed during Clinton, was passed during a time in the 90s where there was a rise of hostilities and attacks on abortion centers. And the protests that were happening within abortion centers. So the FACE Act is actually what was used to prosecute many Christians recently by the Biden administration who were peacefully protesting at abortion centers.
Their homes were swatted. They were drug out of their homes, in the middle of the night? And then they
Yes.
served time. So
Correct. So that same act, however, during the negotiations of that act, the Republicans were like, okay, if you want us to sign this, if you're going to pass this, you're going to have to apply the same protections to places of worship.
Smart.
So specifically, it is also illegal to I probably have the language here. Let me just read it real quick. It says, where is it? Core provision says whoever by force or threat or force or by physical obstruction intentionally injures, intimidates, or interferes with or attempts to injure, intimidate, or interfere with any person lawfully exercising or seeking to exercise the First Amendment right of religious freedom at a place of religious worship or cause damages and deface falls under the FACE Act. So it's not just about the abortion clinics. If anybody's going like Mr. Keith Ellison, who is the AG in Minnesota, he is arguing that the FACE Act is only for the protection of abortion clinics.
How is that possible? How could he not have? Take a look at it before you make a statement. These people are so inept. I cannot.
He's not. He's the same guy that just got caught on tape, basically winking at the Somalis that were saying like, "Hey, we're gonna support your campaign if you."
I mean, but still, run it through ChatGPT like 3 minutes before you make a statement.
He was on Don Lemon at the time that he was doing this. Okay.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Before we move on, before I forget. Speaking of Don Lemon.
Oh yes, the Don Lemon story.
If I have mentioned this before, just indulge me again, because this was the moment when I stopped taking. I never really took him seriously, but he lost all credibility, and I just turned him off immediately whenever I saw him. It had to have been at least a decade ago or longer. I mean, we've lived in Virginia now for almost 8 years, and it was when we were in California. And we notoriously never go out on New Year's Eve ever because we're boring old people. And we're sitting there with our sushi. We decided to turn on, after we put the kids to bed, the ball drop, and Fox News and CNN are doing like, oh, we're everywhere around the world. Here are correspondents in Hong Kong. Here are correspondents in Australia. Here's our correspondents in New Orleans. And this is how the people there are ringing in the new year. And CNN, this is when he was on CNN before he got fired. He was the correspondent that was in New Orleans. And they
were around Bush.
Gosh, no, it wasn't that long ago.
Okay,
maybe it was. I don't remember. It was like a decade ago. I don't know. And he was the correspondent with one or two other CNN people that were tasked with being in New Orleans and going around from party to party and checking in on people. And then they finally landed at this one dive bar that's really famous. And you progressively saw Don Lemon get like more and more drunk as the night got on. Okay. And then finally, it's maybe like a half hour before the ball drop. And he is in a hot tub that they have moved into said bar area. I don't know the rules about that. I don't think anybody cared about the rules at that point. But he was the spokesperson and broadcasting on CNN from a hot tub with another dude and another lady with microphones. So there's like electronics near the water. So my heart's palpitating, but he's drunk as a skunk, slurring his words, can barely keep his eyes open. And I look at Sean and he's cursing. I'm like, how is this able to be on television? And then how do you show up to your job on Monday morning and expect people to consider you a serious journalist? It's kind of like how I've never understood the Andy Cohen and
Anderson Cooper and
thing.
Yeah.
I've never gotten that. Like, how can you take yourself so seriously in interviews like the next week when you are taking tequila shots with Andy Cohen the weekend prior and
while
like,
giggling,
getting kind of sus. Anyways, after that, I was like, I can't believe what I'm watching, because I was still naive enough to think that people who worked in the press were like serious humans. And that was it. That's my story. It's not very funny, but it was impactful to me. And now that's all I see when I see
That's all
Don
you
Lemon,
see
is
every
a
time you see
man
him.
with beads around his neck, sauced, and
in a hot tub
on New Year's Eve on a major broad. And then they would pan back to the people at like the decision desk, and they'd be like, well, it looks like Don's having a great time. Okay, we'll check in later. Don't die. So anyways, that was my story about Don Lemon.
Well, that was a good one.
Thanks.
I mean, am I surprised? Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. But all that to say, from that to this, has quite a trajectory
of irony and losing respect for people and people that we have lost respect for many moons ago.
Yes.
In all of this, Governor Walz had said
Oh.
nothing for
Right.
I don't know. I mean, it was late in the
36 hours probably.
something like that. It was
Yeah.
at least something like he went all through Sunday, going into Monday before he said anything. Mind
Ridiculous.
you, this was him not even a month ago.
So I would fully expect, and we are preparing for, an influx of more agents, more of the very visible public theatrics of the raids, of the harassments, and you got faith leaders here. I would not put it past this administration to target midnight mass services amongst folks going to worship, because that's who they are.
I mean, is he Karnak or something like that? Except
I don't
backwards?
know.
I don't even, that is a really old reference, by the way.
Yep.
I'm kind of embarrassed.
Our
that I
younger
used it.
listeners are not.
They're like,
No.
car who? Never mind. I don't even want to discuss it. Okay. Now, all of this has happened, right? We got the interruption, the DO. Things are getting heated in Minneapolis. And another thing that the media is not reporting, because we're going to get into what are justifiable problems about with ICE. We're not going to keep this one-sided. But first of all, the issue is also what is not being reported. And what I have also seen are multiple reports of these rapid response anti-ICE teams who are coordinating together, either because they're with an organization like Armstrong's, or maybe they're with a little mom group or something along those lines. There's all these different types of groups that are organizing these rapid response. And so what they go and watch for ICE. They have text threads. They'll report where their locations are. Then they descend on the location and they start filming, yelling, whistles, or to the point where sometimes they get to obstructing. But in addition to that, there are episodes of mistaken identity happening. Okay. Which is very interesting to me because I have 4 or 5 examples that I can think of off the top of my head of mistaken identity. And they all involve a certain element of profiling, because it is either because a white man that looks like he's straight is wearing camo, is in an SUV, maybe with out-of-state plates, sometimes not with out-of-state plates. And these things together, or they're going to a restaurant that's maybe seen as a place that ICE agents would go to.
Yeah.
Correct. And so they're assuming that they're ICE agents. One happened recently on January 17th at Clancy's Deli, where there were 5 they're coworkers. It was 5 guys. They work together in the tech industry. They went to lunch. Turns out that one of them is in one of these signal threads because he is anti-ICE. And in his thread, he starts to see notifications about ICE agents at the restaurant, at the deli that he's at.
And they profiled him?
And they were profiling them, that group of 5. Okay?
Wow.
So then and I have the clip. So this man decided to film this interaction, and this is how that went.
This is so cool. So cool as it
So he's filming from inside the restaurant, out the window, and people are gathering outside. If you're not with us, then you're against us.
So clear. Oh my God. What? We do custom apps for a whole bunch of companies around Minnesota and the country. Filming us? Why are you filming us? Because you're filming us. Here.
So that was
I cannot. Let me just say that if some of these white old liberal people come up and try and videotape myself, if I'm with someone, my kids, my husband, I will not be
You won't be cool
kind.
about it.
No, I will not. They're being far too nice. That's the one thing I've seen. I will do something I regret because this is getting out of hand. Like, why are you taping me? Why are you doing this? Tell me what your job is. Tell me where I'm not going to tell you anything. Goodbye. Get out of my face. Like,
yes.
Don't.
Well, and then again, to me, this is so reminiscent of like, if you're not with us, then you're against us.
Oh, it's all the BLM stuff. Do you remember people sitting at like restaurants and they're demanding them get up and answer questions? I will not do that. You could come make me stand up, but I will not.
It's wild to me. And they're making demands. Like, this is another one where this SUV, this guy is driving. He rented this car and he's being interrogated by people basically because he's white and has rented an SUV.
Here you go.
This poor guy.
I don't have to do this. I'm happy to do this. That's all. We just got to stop this.
So he's got a lot of camera equipment. I think we can say this isn't.
Yeah, I'm not. I tried to tell the first lady nobody believes me. That's all I can do is tell you.
Again, too nice.
Listen, first of all, I don't have to do any of that, but I'm
no.
I respect what you are doing. Yeah, no. I really appreciate what you guys are doing.
No.
I just don't understand my job and I don't know how to do it.
You can. Just go rent something else.
Well,
I mean, if you're part of the
Are you kidding me, lady?
Go rent something else.
Talk about a Karen, okay?
He was here with a video camera yesterday. I did see another vehicle with them.
So, so this one goes on for like...
The entitlement of these women, primarily, a lot of them, older women. I don't know if they regret their past choices. Yeah. I don't know if they weren't on the picket lines when it mattered when they were young, and now they're trying to make up for it. Maybe they were, and they're trying to. Well, they're reliving their glory days.
Exactly.
But the audacity to talk to this guy and pressure him so much that he gets out of his car, and this is weak sauce. Okay. Yeah. What man is getting out of their car to prove to a bunch of wackadoodles what's in his trunk? I am not getting out of my car and opening anything for you. I don't have to answer to you. But this is like the brain dead virus that makes people feel like they have to answer to the crowd about this kind of stuff. It's insidious. Like, they're afraid of these people. You know what I mean?
And those are just two examples. I saw this one where this guy is clearly like, he looks like a blue collar guy in a hoodie with like a Carhartt jacket on. Yeah. He's walking the streets and this guy is yelling at him. Actually, it sounded like the guy that was at City's church.
He probably just walks around and does that, honestly.
And he is following around, yelling at him, demanding that he says, well, denounce ICE then, denounce ICE. And
I will not.
This entire
it's post the black square.
Yes.
You can't say all lives matter. You have to say Black Lives Matter. Do not tell me what I need to do.
Yeah. And there was even a guy he was wearing a camo jacket. Actually, do I have that one? Yes. Here we go. I have that one too.
Police. What?
Okay. Okay, boy, look. Hey, get up. Let him go. Get your ass up. You good? You're not nothing? Okay. That's all they asked. Watch out. That's all they asked. He's one of us.
He's one of
us. No, he's
not.
Okay, good. You all right, dude? You all right? Come on. He's one of us. How do we know? How we know? I was with him earlier. Why you get ran out earlier? I don't know. He's one of us. I'm with them. Trust me.
So this guy
These
gets
people
chased.
are crazy. And what would have happened if he wasn't one of us and he was an ICE agent?
They would have beat him.
Yeah. This is crazy.
That's what they would have done. They would have beat him.
And they would have had wholesale support by the same people who are saying that this outburst in the church, this abomination that happened on Sunday with these unhinged people was fine. It's the same. It's devoid of clarity. I don't know. I think we're dealing with something demonic. It's weird.
Yeah. And the thing is that what's not surprising, but still frustrating, is either the lack of reporting on stuff like this, or saying, well, look, 95% or 97% of these protests are peaceful. Okay, That's fine, but you still have to acknowledge that there's a problem here. Nobody's calling him out. You also have the Minneapolis PD that's doing next to nothing.
Yep.
About these situations.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, and honestly, it's because of the state governing officials that this is happening in the first place. They are taking these multiple offenders, illegal aliens, and releasing them into the public and telling their police officers to, just whatever, turn the blind eye and let ICE take the fall for their horrible state management.
Well, I just saw, and I haven't confirmed this independently, but I saw that DHS is reporting that since they've been in Minneapolis, they have arrested or detained, I don't know what the legal term is exactly, but 3,000 illegals, okay? And over the weekend, many of them had either a prior sex charge, like sex offender charge or murder charge, or like they had a violent offense. Not
and
all
that's
of them,
all on
but
the
a
state government. All of it.
correct. And you're going to tell me like 3,000 since they've been in.
That's on purpose. That's on purpose.
They haven't even been in Minneapolis for like a month.
Yep.
Like, what are we talking about here? And then we also have the situations like, for example, like Jake Lang? Was he?
Lang, I think. Well, and that's another one that's weird to me because I posted about that not knowing who this guy was. I just saw the footage and I was like, this is wrong. And I was surprised at the amount of conservatives or right-leaning or, Republicans who showed up commenting, well, that guy asks for it, blah, blah, blah.
That's okay.
What
That's
are you
exactly what I
talking
was
about?
to say.
Like, I since learned what he did. Okay, don't like the guy. Probably wouldn't want to have him over for dinner. Not loving his tactics, but
that doesn't mean
are you
that
going to
it's
tell me that
okay?
that's okay?
Thank you, because that's exactly what I was about to say. I was like, you don't even have to like what I'm not a fan.
No,
not a fan.
Not what I learned about him.
He still has the same rights as everybody else. And that does not mean that he needs to be ripped off a building and have the back of his head split open by a mob of people.
That's right.
Like, you can disagree with that and be like, also, that is bad.
Yeah, exactly.
That is malo, okay?
Yes.
And just like the downplaying of the vigilante nature of these rapid response networks who are harassing citizens just because they're ironically profiling them to
crazy.
Be ICE is nuts. As if there isn't a huge presence, by the way, of Latinos in Border Patrol and ICE.
Yep.
There actually is.
I know. That's so funny.
So, to me, I think that's incredibly
I saw
ironic.
the other way that I think people aren't discussing enough, even like the conservative press or independent press isn't covering enough, are the tactics. Everybody's like, well, they're not impeding this isn't obstruction, whatever, when they're blowing whistles or whatever. There was one video I saw where it was an ICE officer rolled up in his car next to someone else. Play it because I think it's important.
Reporting. We're here to arrest a child sex offender. And you guys are out here honking.
Oh, they're not. No, we're press. No, we're not.
That vehicle right there is honking and impeding our investigations while we're trying to arrest a child sex offender. That's who you guys are protecting. Insane. That's what we're doing. My word's not for you. My word is not for you. I don't have to do it.
They're lying.
They're lying. Tell them to go away.
Get out of here. That's incredible to me. This is who you are protecting. And it's so, I don't know. I saw this. I was thinking the same thing. It's this, everybody keeps saying DEI is dead.
No.
And it's not.
It's
and
different.
I was thinking about, Abigail Spanberger, much to my chagrin, was sworn in the past couple days as the new governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia. And
she looked like the Ice Queen from.
Well, she looked like from
Turkish Delight from
or,
Narnia,
or the Hunger Games villain. Yes. You know what I'm saying? But amongst the first tranche of executive orders, she signed on within minutes of taking office. She signed this order that it would take away the minimum penalty for certain criminals like sex offenders, rapists, and things like that. And they're arguing that it gives, the judge more leeway to, whatever. But if you read the fine print, it's literally just saying you can rape a kid. There's no longer a minimum requirement for you to serve. So she just did that. And these different law centers and progressive outlets are coming forward and saying that this is a really good move because lots of these offenses are typically perpetuated by communities that have
what different cultural standards?
Yes. No, that they have been more. What was the word they used? It's the standard DEI speak, where it's saying like communities of color that have been unnecessarily afflicted, they are prejudiced against, they have a harder time.
They rape children.
Or they're looked upon differently than white people, so they're getting longer sentences or whatever. And I'm just like, DEI is not dead. This is, when you vote, it has consequences. And when that happened, and that was like, I think her third executive order of all the executive orders you could be placing. It's what I see here too. It's like people are protecting some of the worst amongst us. I see it in my comment section when I'm talking about people who may have been profiled incorrectly and detained but then released. Well, they were living with or in contact with.
We're actually going to talk about that one because both of these stories, and this is where the aspect that I want to bring in, like there are legitimate questions on whether or not ICE is overstepping.
Yes, of course.
But there's also a lot of information that's being left out of the story.
But what I'm seeing are people being sympathetic to like the worst offenders amongst us. And for what? I understand that your progressive talking points are really important and you're scared about ICE and you think Trump is Hitler and an authoritarian and you don't like these tactics, fine. But in sharing your thoughts, you're defending or preventing that justice is done for individuals who are evil. You see what I'm saying?
But I also, and I mean, I might be giving them a little bit too much of a benefit of a doubt because I'm just talking about like normal people. I'm not talking about the politicians. I'm not talking about the talking heads, okay?
Well, I'm talking about these people standing out there going, he's lying. They're not really going to get a sex offender.
And that's my point. Is like, I think they sincerely, because they don't trust the administration. And I think if like we were to flip our hats and think back to like when we were dealing with the Biden administration and how provably, like it was later proved that they were lying, you know, we're so divided right now that they are now believing that the administration is lying. And I will give them a smidgen of credit because you have to admit that Kristi Noem has not been the best messenger for the administration when it comes to DHS.
Why don't they give her a spokesperson like they give,
I don't know,
like the State Department a spokesperson? She kind of could use a spokesperson, I think.
Tricia McLaughlin, I think is her last name, who is like the deputy, her deputy. She does a much better job, but she doesn't necessarily get she's not as forward-facing as Kristi Noem is because you know that girl loves to run in front of a camera.
Yes. I mean, when you work that hard to be that thin and
be in front of a camera with all let's admit, okay?
Yeah, she doesn't shy away from being in front.
But I do want to talk because we have been getting a lot of questions about like, look, is ICE overstepping? What is the situation? And I have like 2 case studies because there's been multiple reports. And a lot of times what is challenging here is that the clips that are going viral are without context. So they'll be like, you know, first of all, there's a serious misunderstanding of what the definition of due process means.
I think we need to write a post on that, honestly.
Yes.
I think so.
Like, ultimately, due process is that you are able to follow the process that your status permits you or assigns or says it affords you, that your status legally affords you. So like, for example, if you're here illegally, to keep it this simple, the due process is like detainment, officer arrest. You go before, this is very uber simplified. You go before an immigration judge who is the executive branch, not the judicial branch. They do a ruling and then you go through your process of deportation, okay? A lot of people think that due process means that you have to have a jury trial or you have to be found guilty, or that does not apply when we're talking about illegal immigration.
Nope.
And all of this stuff can get kind of complicated or more complicated. We're dealing with situations, for example, like the situation of Garrison Gibson, okay? So Garrison Gibson was a 38-year-old Liberian man, and he got caught up in the Operation Metro Surge. And he was ordered removed in 2009 based on a 2008 drug conviction, which was then later dismissed. But he ultimately had a final deportation order for 2023. But then also at the same time, he was granted, let me see what the term is here. It was some kind of like, oh my gosh, I thought I had it here. It's an administrative process that that permits him to stay in the country. Order of supervision is what it's called. So he's granted an order of supervision, which is to the discretion of DHS, okay?
Yeah.
Where it kind of like, it's basically says you have to check in regularly. And as long as you check in and we know what's going on, you might get your status renewed and everything. And he had been doing those check-ins. However, if DHS decides to move forward with deportation, they can do that. But that legal aspect is not really brought up in this reporting. What is brought up is what looks like the apparent abuse of busting into his house.
Okay.
Okay. So I have a news report here. I'm going to play a little bit of it. And this is a local news report that's giving us the story on Gibson.
Sunday morning, North Minneapolis. An agitated crowd gathered as federal agents battered their way into the home of Garrison Gibson. While an Associated Press photographer captured the scenes outside.
Where's the warrant? Where is it? Can you put the guns down, though?
Gibson's family was documenting the unfolding immigration enforcement operation live on Facebook, demanding to see a signed judicial warrant to justify the arrest of the 38-year-old.
To see a battering ram coming to the front door of your house with a 9-year-old inside is just terrifying.
Armed agents eventually handcuffed Gibson and escorted him out with a hoodie over his head. The only paperwork loved ones were shown.
Hey, baby, look at the warrant. Get the sound by judge.
This administrative warrant with no apparent signature from a judge.
I mean,
okay, so it goes on. The attorney also speaks for him. But the issue there is the busting in. And then when he's asked for a warrant, they show an administrative warrant. And that is a problem because an administrative warrant only allows apprehension in a public space. It doesn't allow the officers to break down the door.
Enter into someone's home.
Enter into someone's house. That is a judicial warrant. Warrant. Now,
to enter someone's private property.
Correct, because it is still their private home. Now, when all this happened, he he's been represented by the attorney that spoke. He was a judge ruled that the officers had violated, that they needed a proper warrant and that they did not. And he was released and he's now back with his family. And so DHS is still seeing, like, my guess is that they're going to come back with him at some other time for some other reason, or in the process of him doing his check-in, they might revoke it and just detain him right there. Which is probably going to deter him from wanting to go. But I bring this up because the clip that they're going to provide is the busting in. What they're not going to tell you is, because they're going to say, well, he does his check-ins, so he's legal. Well, he's not legal. He has a final deportation order, but they decided to shelve it as long as he did this order of supervision, which is at the discretion of DHS, and they can go through the process, revoke it, which would then trigger his deportation. So and I would argue that the process worked because the officers got their hands slapped for the violation. Now, the question is, to what degree is how the frequency of this,
Yeah,
how
like
often
the
is it
amount
happening?
of the
Correct.
ratio of arrests done by the book and they were clean,
And
as
I would
opposed to other ones
argue
like this.
if they have gotten 3,000 reported arrests, which this
Mhm.
is DHS, which obviously has their own bias, like it's not like we should trust the government 100%.
Mhm.
But if they have gotten 3,000 arrests, and what
Mhm.
I've seen are commonly like a handful of stories
Yep.
in an environment that's pretty hostile, I feel like the numbers are pretty decent there.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's seems like a good, statistic in favor of them handling most of these, the way they
Well,
should and
and
legally.
every clip and every story that I've seen, like I saw this other guy and he's like, he was filming them. The officer asked him for his ID, asked him if he was a citizen. He refused to provide ID. I don't know what was happening beforehand as to
Mhm.
why he was asked to provide ID. He was like, well, why do you want my ID? Well, you have an accent. That's questionable. Like, should we just
Mhm.
be IDing people because they have an accent?
Mhm.
However, he ended up being detained because he did not provide identification and
Mhm.
refused to work with the officer.
Mhm.
Like, it's again, do I like that the officer is going up to
Mhm.
a man who has brown skin and has an accent? But ironically, the officer that was asking him these questions
Had
was
brown
also
skin.
had brown skin and
Yes.
an accent.
Mhm.
So it's like, what are you like? What
If
do
you're
you do with that?
insinuating that he's being profiled because the person profiling him is racist, it's like, well, that one doesn't really work. You know what I mean?
I don't know. And then most recently, you shared the one on your stories,
Mhm.
which was an image that went viral of this man that was taken out of his home in his shorts. I have a post here so everybody can see it. So he's taken out of his home in his shorts
Mhm.
with just what is this? Like a blanket on,
Mhm.
right? And he's
Yeah.
escorted out. Now, there's a lot here because Trisha
Laughlin.
McLaughlin. Oh, Lord help me. I need another
It's
job.
okay.
She says in this post that there was an operation that was going on to arrest 2 convicted sex offenders
Mhm.
that were identified to be at this site at his home.
Yes.
And that one of them matched the identification or the description of this
Mhm.
man, and this
Yes.
man refused to give his ID or his
Or
information.
allow the facial profiling that they can do. Like they can do some
Correct.
sort of
And
I don't
because of
know.
that, he was taken to the car, he was detained until they could verify his ID, and then he was released.
Yes.
Now, the debate comes whether or not there were actually 2 sex offenders in the home.
Mhm.
The family alleges that is not the case, and they question whether or not if maybe, like, they just had the wrong location or if they were there previously or, like, in the process of them I don't know what's the word I'm doing, like, probation being released that you have to
Right.
provide an address, they had the wrong address.
Mhm.
We don't know.
Yeah.
The point is that it was mistaken identity, it looks like. He did not wanna give his information or cooperate.
Mhm.
They're not going to allow someone that they suspect of being a sex offender to go and get dressed before he goes and gets arrested because
Right.
in that time, he could flee.
Right. And that's what, like, when I posted it, I get a lot of people who are big mad and saying, there's this article in The Guardian that's saying that the family refutes this and is going to sue and he was not treated correctly. And they're telling me, well, like, look, this is what his family's saying. And I'm like, well, look, this is what DHS is saying. And they're like, do you trust DHS? And I'm like, do you trust his family if he was living with 2 sex offenders who they now say are at large in the St. Paul area? And so it's kind of a pick and choose at this point. Like, who are you going to trust? Or at least gather all the information that you can and look at it at, as carefully as you can and make your own judgment. What I think is interesting is going back in history and remembering just how many people Barack Obama detained and deported.
Correct.
And it's really interesting to me because, anytime something like this happens, I'll say, well, what about this then? They're like, don't do whataboutism. And I'm like, actually, it's really informative to do whataboutism because I have a feeling weren't necessarily spending a lot of your time, if you're a liberal or a progressive, caring about Barack Obama's deportation policies and how those operations were going about. You didn't care that much then as you do now. And so let's talk about why that is. Do you all of a sudden have a bleeding heart now for the immigrants, or is it because you just naturally you have an inclination to feel like everything that Donald Trump puts his hand on is going to be nefarious and illegal and authoritarian? That's what I'm struggling with, because people who I have known who never once said boo about illegal immigration, they don't care about it. They've never cared about this kind of stuff, about deportations, about the amount of illegal immigrants in our country. In the past, sometimes they've even said that, they agreed with someone like Barack Obama about illegal immigration. Now all
And
of a sudden
now
they have a problem. I
Well,
don't
because they'll
understand.
claim, first of all, I think is, a lot of times it's, first of all, not trusting Trump comes
Right.
from it, and just not liking him at all.
Right.
But also we have an issue here where we have a short memory, and then a lot of people, myself included sometimes, are unwilling to look at the broader issue. So when we're talking about Obama's operations were permitted to be more covert.
Yeah.
Okay. CNN at one point, embedded with a operation, reported on it, even reported on the mistake that an officer made or how they arrested someone with incorrect identity and how they were busting down doors and they busted into the wrong house. And then they provide context as
it
they eventually,
happens.
it happens. They identified him. They let him go, which is, I would say, the same situation that we're dealing with here. The difference is that at the time, you didn't have the mayor, the governor, every Democrat leader egging people on, telling them that what is happening is objectively either Nazi or fascism,
Right.
because heaven forbid that we enforce, I don't know, laws. And this includes Obama deported, yes, criminals, but also people who were just here illegally, because he said, if you are here illegally, you gotta go. Okay.
Well, correct. With that, I would agree with the president.
It's like,
President
look at
Obama. But look, we found some common ground. I think we forget that people before, well, Obama too, but people before that lived, they were able to run the country under a cloak of some sort of anonymity that no current president or future president is going to be able to, with social media and with independent journalism.
Media themselves
and the media.
too.
They run cover, and they have run cover for all of these presidents. And now all of a sudden they decide to do some work. But it only works one way. They're not checking the and I'm talking about liberal commentators on social media too, who have barely mentioned the stuff that happened on Sunday. And
if they do, it's but the pastor was a nice guy. And I'm
right. So
that's irrelevant.
Their whole personality has been Minnesota for the last month and a half. And then when activists clearly misstep and go so far out left field, cross a line that absolutely should not be crossed, they maybe give it one slide in their stories. And then they're back to talking about the compassion of Minnesota and how they're banding together. And it's give me a break. It's so clearly
You're talking
not
about
objective.
that, what's his face? Aaron, he did this whole freaking reel, Aaron Pranis or whatever. Yeah. I think Amanda shared it, where he's like, it's really encouraging how Minnesota is coming together to fight this oppression. And then there's an overplay of all of the violent videos.
She did that last night. Yeah, and it's
exactly.
Totally.
And
it's
laughable.
It's kind of branding the whole state as this peacenik, sweet,
it's Minnesota nice, because
right. And how it's crime free and everybody's banding together. It's are you kidding me? That place, they had 3,000 detainments in how long? What? It's been a month? And these are repeat offenders. It is not a good place right now. It's getting cleaned up, but
that is a good place to kind of segue and wrap ourselves up in, because we have to remember too that when Obama was doing this, the sanctuary cities were Democrat cities, and he was a Democrat president. And so those cities were not going to oppose him and make him look bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because he was I mean, he was
One of them.
Obama.
One
He was
of
one of
them.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
He's with us.
So now we don't want to make too much of a fuss about it versus there's a green light when it's Trump, right?
Mhm.
Now, my argument is I think we absolutely, of course, I do not want ICE or any officers, I don't care who you are, whether you're local PD or you're a Fed, violating anybody's civil rights.
Right.
You didn't have a judicial warrant, you should not go into that man's house, okay?
Right.
You find out that the person has a mistaken identity, they are a U.S. citizen, you then release them.
Correct.
There's a lot of misunderstanding in regards to like, oh, they can't detain U.S. citizens. Yes, they
Yes,
can.
they can.
They can detain them for up to 3 days to
Mm-hmm.
investigate on whether or not they have obstructed an operation,
Yeah.
and then they can recommend them to the appropriate authorities while they conduct that investigation. And the reason that they can do that is because PD is not helping them.
At
and
all. Mhm.
whether they like it or not, these Democrats had power for a significant amount of time, and they did nothing with these laws that are on the books. And there is a federal supremacy law, okay?
Mhm.
So ICE, DHS, Border Patrol are within their right to execute deportation, okay?
Mhm.
That's what they're here
It's
for.
their literal job.
It-
And
exactly.
if you're not going to do it, they're going to do it. And
Who's
if you're
gonna
not
do
going to
it?
help them, get out of the way. Like, get out of the way. And these mayors and these governors that are all but saying to their state law enforcement,
You had Walz saying, record them so we can prosecute them later.
I
okay?
don't think that they understand how dangerous that is. Like I said, it only takes one or two people who have had enough. And you're going to have a face-off between some of these sanctuary cities and these progressive states, and their PDs come up in the face of an ICE agent during an operation and try and act like a hero because everybody in their state's telling them that ICE is, the Gestapo. Something bad's going to happen. And these people are, it's like playing a game. All of these governors and people opposing Trump out of their own hatred for him are going to cause a serious problem. And it's like I don't understand how they can't see that that's going to happen, but it's like they're playing a game, a really high stakes game, but they don't think it's real life. I don't know.
Well, and I think we also need to consider, what's the ultimate goal here? Their issue is not ICE. Their issue is not the enforcement of, the laws that are on the books.
Mhm.
Their issue is the deportations in general. They don't think anybody should be deported, okay? And you have Mayor Fry literally telling ICE, if you would just leave, everything would calm down. And then we could continue just ignoring the fact that we have illegal criminals roaming Minneapolis as if it's no big deal and go about our business. And, because we need to protect our neighbors. I'm like,
not to have it circle back again, but I swear it's that DEI brain virus that people have. When they hear illegal immigrant, they're almost trained to think of someone we should feel sorry for and that has been harassed and has been devalued and demoralized their whole life. And so we need to stick up for them and not actually acknowledge what many of those illegal immigrants have done. Already, they've broken the law by being an illegal immigrant, but then they have also taken advantage of our justice system. They have taken advantage of our laws, and they have repeat offenses. And for some reason,
they just let
a
them back out on the
large
street.
group of people has this DEI worm that tells them that they need to feel bad for wanting those people out of the country. And I don't know how to solve that. I don't know what the tonic is for that, but it's
honestly, I was kind of thinking about this, and I was like, I think maybe, I don't know. I was like, maybe pull everybody out of Minnesota, Minneapolis, including all the federal funding, all of the money, everything
here for that.
I was like, just pull it all out and let them be on their own and deal with their own and see what happens.
Yeah.
And then set up operations. I hate to say this, but set up operations in the neighboring states. You know what I mean? Use them as an example.
So it doesn't
so
bleed
it
out
doesn't
into other
spread.
yeah.
Pull their funding, and maybe other states will start to consider twice on whether or not they need to be messing around. And look, the fact is, whether you like it, you want to admit this or not, Minnesota, Walz, Fry, whatever. If you actually cared about your constituents and not about your morality, your perceived superior morality, you would keep these people in jail and cooperate with the officers so they could take them from the jail and
Yep.
then deport them and
Yep.
not have to worry about them going into the street and having to be pursued in the street like that Venezuelan
Yep.
who fled and then got shot in the leg after he got 2 of his friends to beat the crap out of an officer with a shovel. Like, you wouldn't have all of these people busting, like, you
Yeah.
wouldn't have officers having to do operations in the
Yeah.
streets and people's
Pretty
houses.
easy. If
Like,
you
it's
want
not-
ICE out, then do your job. If
Like,
you
it's
want ICE out, do your job. And I say this as I say, pull all the funding. And I say this as a Virginian who has a governor who like wants to make Virginia, Minnesota real quick. So put the pressure on. Say we're revoking your funds. Then you can't have these sanctuary cities. You can't basically retaliate or threaten federal agents. So we're out. Go.
And
Good
look,
luck.
honestly, in my personal opinion, the president's being pretty measured about this. In regards
He hasn't
to
done the Insurrection Act yet. I thought he was going to do that.
exactly,
a couple days
because
ago.
I would be like,
He has every
bro,
right to. He
let's
is-
go.
Yeah. That's when I get Stephen Miller-ish real fast.
I'm
I feel like, let's
go.
do it. Yep. Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, we need to do it before someone gets killed. Honestly, another person gets killed. And I'm talking about, I'm not saying that wasn't justified. We already discussed that. I'm saying a law enforcement officer is going to get killed. That's what's next. I feel like that's what's next somewhere in our country. It's going to happen.
Remember, in the past, we've had situations where officers have been literally assassinated in the streets. Okay. That they have been ambushed and shot and killed. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm actually surprised that I wouldn't be surprised that heaven forbid, and I pray that does not happen, but the environment is right for something like that.
Well,
and
they
it
had
is
the National
scary.
Guard officer who was killed last month in DC. I mean,
well, and then that's the other thing. We haven't even gone into that, and I need to wrap this up. But right now, you have a standoff going. You have a standoff with Walz warning the Minnesota National Guard to stand by with their neon green vests, so you don't mistake them for anybody other than the Minnesota National Guard.
Yeah.
And you have the president right now has, I think, 1,500 troops like on
Ready.
standby in case they have to go to Minnesota, like not National Guard, military. To go into Minnesota. What happens there? So what, you're going to have the National Guard and the U.S. military confront each other?
Like I said, something bad's going to happen. When I look at what the verbiage that Frey, we do this every time.
I don't know.
I don't care. That the mayor of Minneapolis and then Tim Walz use.
Jacob.
It's like they are young boys playing like cops and robbers or playing like with their army men and
Yes, like
let's
LARPing.
fight. Yeah,
Or like-
and it makes me really sad for the people of their state because those people, I talk with conservatives who live in Minneapolis and they've lived there for years and they've said they have grown increasingly more and more afraid of living in that state for a variety of reasons. But now they specifically are like, I'm not a fearful individual and I'm not being dramatic, but I don't
But
like
this
it
is
here.
getting-
I want
yeah.
to move. I do not feel safe in this state anymore. And that's really sad what those men have allowed to happen, all because they want to play this, like I said, this game that's in their mind. Like they're playing a video game or something and they think they can just like banter about and use language and make threats. I don't know. It's so
well, they're also
damaging.
being investigated by the DOJ.
Yes, they are.
I think it says, I don't know the name, but it says there's a statute that says it makes it a crime for 2 or more people to conspire to prevent federal officers from carrying out duties through force, intimidation, or threats. So now also they're being like investigated.
They're stressed out. These boys are stressed out. And so they're like, that's it. I'm going to fight back. And it's like with the lives of the people, your constituents. So great.
I mean, what's Walz going to do if he ends up in jail and he can't take his Ozempic anymore?
Oh my
What
gosh.
is
Is
he
he on
gonna do?
Ozempic?
He is. Have you looked at pictures of him when he was running for VP to today?
I try not to. No, I don't.
I
make it a
mean,
habit.
maybe he did it the old-fashioned way, but the dude has slimmed down. He's almost
He
as
has.
skinny as Jacob.
He's
Almost.
probably also really stressed, TBH. Because it's not going well for him. So
Yeah. Well, okay. I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping us up. I don't even know what to expect for Thursday's episode, especially now that the president has decided to fly off to Davos.
Trump's on right now.
Oh gosh,
He's
yes,
talking
he is.
about he's talking about anti-ICE. Wrap it up. We need to hear this. He's talking about anti-ICE stuff.
Oh look,
in Minnesota.
he's putting up pictures and everything of bad guys. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap us up for today's episode of Rivera Reeves. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. If this is your first time here, welcome. You have found your new favorite podcast. Make sure you hit that follow button wherever you're listening, on YouTube, on Substack, and if you want us early in your ear, please consider becoming a paying supporter where you get this episode as soon as I hit publish, and you gotta wait until tomorrow to watch our beautiful faces on YouTube if you're free. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead. We'll see what happens on Thursday for another episode of Rivera and Reeves. Okay, bye.
Bye.